So there she is. I told you guys I had figured out the tech, but there's some of the tech I haven't.
Because they need you to agree.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like, if you don't want to be recorded, you better jump off. Please don't go away, Stephen. And
No. Consent is important.
Consent. I can see you guys going, nope, we're out. See you later. So just real quick, as everybody's kind of settling in, while Facebook's giving everybody a chance to be notified that we're live now. And if you're watching this later on YouTube, sorry we're not live with you, but you'll be able to watch this. And so we won't be asking your questions live, but sorry about that. Just a little bit about Warwick. So not sure where everybody's joining in from, but Warwick's is located in, and we've had Stephen and Byron, you came down as a guest with Stephen the first time. Lily and the Octopus, we've had you for the editor. Sarah is sitting over there. She is with the Rancho Santa Fe Library, who has hosted Stephen both times. And we hosted Byron for, where's my A Star is Born?
Yay!
Out in paperback, June 15th. I'll be putting that into the chat. But boy, where was I? Talking about Warwick's. So, and talking about hosting Stephen. So hopefully one of these days, maybe the paperback tour, we will get Stephen down here.
Well, we had better be live. We had better be in person for that, for sure.
Yeah, we better be in person for that. I know that we will be flooding in when that happens. So anyways, we're open for business. If you want to come down and shop with us, I'm going to be putting both Stephen's new book, Guncle, which we've got some new news about that to share with you today. I'm putting that in both the chat function of the Zoom and also onto Facebook Live. You can easily click on that. I always like to say anyway, there's to get a book, you can get it from Warwick's. We're celebrating our 125th anniversary this year. So yeah, lots of things, lots of stuff in history that we've seen. A couple pandemics, a couple world wars. We've survived.
And you're still here.
And we're still here. Woman-owned business, San Diego. It's like, come on, it's fantastic. So you can click on both of their books. We can ship them to you. Or if you're in the San Diego area, we would love to see you in the store. There's nothing better than coming and shopping in a bookstore. I'll also be, Stephen and Byron are going to chat for about 30-ish minutes. We're going to take questions from both Facebook and the webinar. So go ahead and put your questions into the Q&A function. If you scroll over your screen, you're going to see a Q&A box on the webinar. Put your questions there. I'll be monitoring both that and Facebook Live. So go ahead and put your comments in either of those places so we can chat and make this a fun event with all of your participation too. So don't be shy. So with that, I'm going to turn the mic over to Sarah for a minute to tell us a little bit about what's going on at the Rancho Santa Fe Library.
Well, I'm Sarah Schaefer. I am the executive director of the Rancho Santa Fe Library Guild, and we actually support the Rancho Santa Fe Library branch in partnership with San Diego County. So it is a county branch, but we think it's the best branch because we raise funds to make it that way, with additional programming and author visits and all kinds of stuff. So we're hoping the June 15th is, we're all hoping in California that maybe we get a little more direction and can kind of change our service model that we currently have. So we're really looking forward to that date, and then hopefully bringing some programming back at some point and welcoming our authors back. So, but it's great to see you, Stephen. We've had you at the library. You're one of our favorite authors. So we can't wait for that day when we can all be eating lunch in the Guild room together.
Yeah, I miss libraries, but particularly the Rancho Santa Fe Library. It's really fantastic.
He has a very large fan base there. So
I think somebody even made lily-shaped cookies.
Yes,
that's right. That's right. Caftan-shaped cookies, and they were delicious. I did not feel guilty about eating them one bit.
I love it. All right, thanks, Sarah. So we'll see you a little bit. And so let me introduce, I'm going to introduce Stephen and Byron and then turn the show over to them. So most people who are here probably know, but I still have to do my job and do my due diligence here. So Sarah, you want to turn your video off? Thank you. There we go. Sorry, I'm being like the taskmaster here.
You're good at this. I love it.
I love it. You love my directing, and I'm just like, got the production down. You need a producer for you. Okay, Stephen Rowley is the author of The Editor and the national bestseller Lily and the Octopus, which we have talked about, which has been translated into 19 languages. He has worked as a freelance writer, newspaper columnist, and screenwriter, originally from Portland, Maine. Stephen is a graduate from Emerson College, and he lives in Palm Springs, California now. We're going to talk today about, did this come out? When did this come out? Yesterday?
No, a week ago.
Week ago. So a week ago, this came out. Oh my God, I loved this. This was so, I cannot wait for this conversation. So fun. With him today is his husband, Byron Lane. Byron is the author of A Star is Born, which we hosted you last summer. So there is that conversation is on our Facebook page too. If you want to look back at that, that was a really fun conversation too. A Star is Born, a debut novel People magazine named a best book of summer and the New York Times hails as wildly funny. Byron is also an acclaimed playwright and screenwriter. He's previously worked as a journalist and assistant to celebrities, including Carrie Fisher. He's originally from New Orleans and lives in Palm Springs with, it says partner in your thing. I'm changing it to husband. Update. Stephen Rowley and their dog Tilda. So with that, gentlemen, have a great conversation. I'll be in the background. Call me when you want me.
Yay.
Yay.
Well, thanks, Julie and Sarah. What an honor to be chatting with you about the Guncle.
It's so funny. I feel like we've quarantined together over the past like 15 months. We live together. We write in the same place. And now we're quarantined. Now we're like in this little tiny box. I know it's like we're getting closer and closer together.
I am so excited to do this event with you, chat with you about this, because I feel so proud of you.
Oh.
And I hate that phrase.
Oh, I thought you were saying I hate you.
No. I'm proud of you and I'm excited. And there's saying that I'm proud of you, there's this sense that feels there's this weird like paternal thing, but it really is maybe a more clear way to say it is that I marvel because I got to see the Guncle from beginning to end, where not just reading drafts, but I mean like, hey, this idea
from inspiration to first draft.
Yeah. But it would be silly to not start with breaking news. Breaking news about the Guncle.
Swirling headlines.
Live on Facebook and internets and all of it. Tell us what's going on. What happened today?
Yeah, the Guncle has been, I don't know where the Guncle is. It's been officially optioned for a big feature film from Lionsgate Studios. And Kristen Burr, who's the producer of Cruella, a longtime filmmaker with Disney, now working with Lionsgate. And so this is going to be a big family comedy in theaters, hopefully. I'm so ready to be back in a movie theater, but particularly for a book and that is hopefully funny. For a project that is a comedy, while it does tackle some serious things too, it's hopefully very funny. And I love seeing comedies with an audience, with other people, because I think laughter is infectious. So I'm very excited to think of this, the movie that could be coming from this book too. But
and how does that make you feel that it has its own life on the page, in people's hearts, and soon on the big screen? How does that feel?
Well, yeah, we'll see about the how it feels to see it on the big screen. But for now, the book's only been out a week, and so I've the difference between doing an event today versus last week on pub day or in the first 2 days when the book's been out is that a weekend, like some people have already had a chance to read it and to reach out with their comments and enthusiasm, and that has been so exciting. That people really seem to be embracing this book, and I feel deeply honored that it's touching people in the way that it seems to.
Yeah, we should start by saying what the heck a Guncle is.
In case anyone is not familiar with the term Guncle, it has become very popular slang in the last 5-10 years or so for a gay uncle, but more than that, sort of like with the connotation of being sort of larger than life personality. And so there is that little hint of I don't know which way to move.
It's so weird.
It is, but it's the
so
opposite.
Weird.
A little hint of sort of anti-mamish quality, that sort of bon vivant, bigger than life personality. And certainly Patrick O'Hara, who's the main character of this story, has that in spades.
And you're a Guncle?
I am, as are you.
I'm a Guncle too.
We are Guncles to combined nine children combined, and lots of honorary, an honorary Guncle to many friends' kids and whatnot. So in terms of write what you know, I guess this wasn't a bad place to begin.
And did being a Guncle help lead to this wonderful book, which, by the way, is, I really do think this is my favorite of yours. And
you don't like the other? That way? No, just kidding.
Lily and the Octopus is so beautiful and touching, and the editor is a
No, I didn't mean to draw out compliments for the others, but
I'm excited to give them it because it's truly great and hits all the beats. And were you able to write this because of being an uncle, do you think?
Well, it certainly helped. But you were here for the jumping off point, which my brother and his wife brought their 2 boys to visit us here in Palm Springs at one point. And my brother wasn't even here for 12 hours when he got called back to his job on the East Coast, sort of a work emergency. And I was left with the 2 boys for the week. And suddenly it was like being the understudy, suddenly thrust into the lead role. And so I had to do some extra, dig deep and do some extra tap dancing to entertain. Not literally, but maybe literally.
Steve is so great
at tap dancing.
He's great with the kids and splashing around in the pool and making lots of plans and all that stuff.
I still had the help of the very capable mother, but it got me imagining, sort of what it would be like to have these kids. And so in this story, Patrick O'Hara, who is sort of a retired television star living a reclusive life in Palm Springs, again, write what you know, is suddenly tasked with taking in his niece and nephew for the summer after a family tragedy. And because he's been grieving his own loss, which is one of the reasons he sort of separated himself from the world, the 3 of them coming together, it sort of brings about a season of healing for all 3 of these characters. So it was definitely, a spark of imagination from real life, but this story kind of took on a life of its own.
And what was that process like? So you got the idea, you and Sally kind of
yeah, my great editor Sally Kim at Putnam, she was actually following along on Instagram as I was posting photos from that week. And so if you scroll back far enough, you can probably see some of the photos that provided inspiration. But she, at the end of that week, I think she could tell I was exhausted. Chuckling because she's got 2 kids of her own, probably about the same age. And I think she was pointing and saying, there might be some inspiration there for something to write about, which got the gears turning. But you were there. That is so interesting because you were there at that time. Although spoiler alert, Byron kind of left too.
I got the heck out of there.
He got out of there, and
I'm like, all these kids, Dad's going back home, and
whoops.
Well, I had to go to work.
You had work commitments.
It really was. Yeah. It really was. I really wish I could have witnessed all that. Because I love every family trip with you where I get to watch you interact with the kids. It's really awesome.
Yeah. Well, people always ask, like, what is it like to live with another writer? And so it is, novel writing in particular can be a very solitary endeavor. So we do bounce things off of each other sometimes. We're each other's first reader and whatnot. But you were really there for the, from the point of inspiration so that, like, that's even a step further back.
And then what about your writing process? So you
that's so funny because it's like, you live in the same house.
Let me tell you about Steve's writing.
Yeah, you take this.
Yeah, it's a lot of yelling.
It's a lot of me snapping at you.
Yeah, a lot of broken plates.
Smashed lamps.
Plates. Can you imagine if we had plates?
I know, it's just like a big Greek wedding here. We just smash dishes. None of that's true. It's actually very quiet in our house, I feel like.
Yeah.
I feel like, and that works to my advantage. Certainly, I hope it works to your advantage too. But like, I always feel for people who, writer friends that we have who may be married to like a loud corporate executive who's home, on conference calls all day and storming through the house and talking loudly. And like, I would never be able to write under those circumstances. So some people are like, oh, I could never live with another writer. And I think, no, it's like, I don't know how I would do it otherwise.
So you get this idea, oh, hey, gay uncle has the kids in Palm Springs. And then will you give us an idea of what happens next? Do you just open a blank page and take a deep breath and go for it? Or do you index card everywhere?
Well, yeah, I'm not as big of an outliner as you are. If you could see, you could see our walls when Byron's working. There are 3x5 index cards, all like wallpaper.
I do feel bad about it. I have to get it out of my head.
Whereas I'm a little more of what they call a pantser, which is that I fly by the seat of my pants kind of writer. It's not that I don't have it outlined to a certain extent, but I also like to leave lots of room for surprise. So when I started writing this, I was inspired by like a light comedic novel. I've had a long obsession with Auntie Mame, the Patrick Dennis novel from 1955, which was a movie with Rosalind Russell, a Broadway show, and then a movie with Rosalind Russell, and then a Broadway musical with Angela Lansbury, and a movie musical with Lucille Ball, which is kind of a mess. Spoiler alert. Did I make you watch that?
No, thank goodness. This happens. It
happens. I will sit Byron down and be like, you must watch The Sound of Music. To me, like, our relationship cannot go on unless you watch The Sound of Music with me, or some passion of mine. But I've long had this sort of love for these stories, like Sound of Music's not a bad example, where magical singing nun comes into their life, and at a time when children are grieving, and leads them back to the light. Mary Poppins flying in on the wind with a bit of actual magic, and so and Auntie Mame too. So it's like a good example of that.
I heard you talking a few days ago with actor Michael Urie about the book, and
as I do, Michael Urie and I just chat all the time. No, he was lucky enough. I was lucky enough to have him join me in conversation. Yeah, last week.
I mean, my way of saying it was cooler. I wasn't think that you're like.
I edit that.
Me and Michael Urie were like, no, but I heard you guys chatting, and so Michael is reads so much and is so involved in theater and film, and I heard him rattling off these Auntie Mame facts to you. I'm not as well versed in that, but tell us about the parallels.
Oh, well, so I was going to say particularly too that, like, I was picturing a very light comedic novel, and Mame, for anyone who remembers, sort of shipped her ward off to boarding school and sidestepped the issue of grief. But early on in the writing process, I lost one of my closest friends from college to breast cancer, and she left behind a 6-year-old son. So it got me thinking much more seriously about grief in children, and what a 6-year-old might remember of their mom, and where it is the job of her friends and her family to step in and remind this kid, or in this in this story, these children, like how much their mother loved them, how fiercely they were loved, and who she was like. And it's one thing that these kids are sort of fascinated by their uncle, because he knows things. He was friends with their mother long before they were born. And I think, that's really interesting to kids who sometimes think that their parents were born on the same day they were as fully functioning adults, and don't have pasts and childhoods and heartbreaks of their own. So my light comedic novel was suddenly not so light. Hopefully it's still very comedic. I do think it's very funny, but then I was very focused on finding the balance between the heartbreak and treating grief seriously, and where you find the humor, and then fortunately for me, the comedy and tragedy are often two sides of the same coin. But to answer your question, Mame helped give me a structure for some of the characters. Mame had a best friend named Vera, which is such a great character. And in this book, there's a throuple, a polyamorous relationship, 3 men who live on the other side of Patrick's back wall, who pop up and offer advice from time to time. And there's another character named Agnes Gooch, and there's sort of a parallel character in this story as well. So it did help provide a little bit of framework. But now maybe tonight I'm gonna make you sit down and watch one of the versions, so that you'll know. You'll get the references from now on.
And what do you make of a book evolving like that? Maybe evolution is the wrong word, but you're on this path, and then you start thinking about your friend you lost, and then you bring that to the work, and then does the work evolve, or is the work sort of finding itself or reborn? What do you make of that?
Yeah, I think it finds itself a little bit. Like I think it absolutely, like, life should intercede. The irony being, this is a book about a character who's really self-isolated, and it's about him sort of finding his way back to embracing life. And the irony being, like, hasn't been all of us for the past 15 months, finding ourselves feeling more isolated than perhaps we wanted to, and now we're at a point where things are opening up again, and we're reconnecting with people. Now, I have no control over that. Like, I wish I could say, like, oh yes, I was trying to mirror what was happening in the world, but the truth is, I had written this book before COVID had started. But that's an example of a way that something could evolve. Were I writing this, I think maybe it would have moved in that direction naturally. And certainly, I think, we grow as writers, and we have, as we experience more, and as we have new life experiences, and have new things to say, then absolutely, that's why I like to leave a lot of room to maneuver. And it doesn't mean that you don't, or writers who outline extensively don't have that, because I've seen you rip off the recipe cards too, and replace them with new ones too. So it's just, I think it's inevitable that a work is going to evolve as you get to know the characters better, or they start to speak to you as well.
So folks who read this might want to imagine that this is really what your life looks like out here in a mansion with toilets that talk to you and have computers attached and stuff. Is it?
Not quite. So Patrick was the star of a long-running television show called The People Upstairs. And no surprise to anyone who is listening that TV stars make a lot more money than writers. So it's, our life was a bit of an inspiration, and then, amp that up times 1,000. One of the set pieces in the book is a $20,000 Japanese toilet, or washlet. And we certainly do not have one of those.
If you were to do a sequel, or if you had to do more to this book, is there a character who, not Patrick, is there another character who you would love to do a whole nother book about? That you were so interested in their journey, and you think there's so much. I mean, all these characters are so rich, but I just wonder if someone captured your heart, that you would spend that kind of time.
Who is the Rosencrantz and Guildenstern that would get their own? That's interesting. That would get their own time in the spotlight. I'm really thrilled with the throuple, the three men who live next door. I think that's so interesting. And one thing that was fun about choosing Palm Springs as a setting was I don't know who to talk to. I would talk to you or the camera. Was that it's a place where people associate much more with retirement than with raising kids, and and certainly out here in the desert, there's sometimes there's different ways of different lifestyles and whatnot. And so having this polyamorous relationship, and then subverting expectations a little bit with it by making them have really surprising contributions, and really, they're really serious-minded people, and a whole lot of fun. So that was fun to sort of make them, you don't think of a throuple having child rearing advice, but they really do. They're really marvelous. And so I could see them stepping up maybe and having their own story. But just overall, this is the first book that I've written that I've thought that perhaps there could be a sequel, just because I love Patrick and the kids so much.
And what about the Guncle compared to Lily and the editor? What ways do you feel like this book is different?
I do think it's the outright funniest book I've written, but it has similarities. It has similarities and it has its own differences. I think, I try to write as emotionally honest as possible, and hopefully that comes through in this book. I think there's definitely humor in my other books too, but hopefully there are a few sort of laugh out loud moments in this book, truly. And
so many. It's so funny. And you're a funny guy.
I'm okay.
I mean, do you know you're funny?
I think I'm funny, but I think you're funny. I think
you're
funny. I think this is one of the funniest books I've ever read.
Oh,
and
babe.
So, people ask me all the time, like, what are some other comedic novels that you love? And I always have to say yours, which makes it seem like I'm just keeping the peace within our household. But that's not that. I mean, it's like, that is why, that's why it works. Cause I think we both find each other funny. We laugh every day, which is,
oh, isn't that so nice?
It's so lovely.
I feel so lucky.
Barf.
What about the other big character in this book, Palm Springs? What was it like to write about Palm Springs in the Guncle, making that such a
first of all,
rich character that comes to life?
I love this cover.
Look at that cover, guys.
I really love this cover.
Look at that cover.
Captures the mid-century elegance of Palm Springs.
Look at you, and, Patrick.
Oh wait, not me.
You get it.
Patrick.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. That it's our home now. I've written a Los Angeles book in Lily and the Octopus. I've written a New York book and in The Editor, and now a Palm Springs book, which are sort of three cities that I've lived in and loved. And so when you're truly passionate about a place, it is fun to share what you love about that city. But as I said, I liked playing on the idea that this is not someplace you necessarily think about having kids or raising kids, although people do here, but it's not the first thing that comes to mind when you think of Palm Springs. It was also very interesting to me to write a story about grief and set it against the backdrop of some place that has like unrelenting, cheerful sunshine all the time. And what does that feel like when it doesn't match how you feel on the inside?
Yeah.
And so there were, and then there are little things like, putting in some restaurants that we know and other landmarks and points of interest and certainly working in the swimming pool. I am, as we said, the Guncle to 5, and they've all been here. And I think that's their favorite, like to get them out in the city. Yeah, that's fun too, but I have to drag them out of the swimming pool first. And that's often the way it is with the kids in the book too.
And it reminds me of, a parent finally finds the fancy toy that the kid was asking for, and then they just want to play with the box.
Right.
I remember you.
Well, what is a swimming pool but a big box just filled with water?
It's true. And you would make, a couple of days there were big grand plans, but really at the end of the day, the kids just wanted to be here around the pool.
Yeah. Yeah. It's
Sweet.
true. Yeah. I was also just looking at, I'm seeing this in the I can't.
What is it?
The martini, which is very Palm Springs, very sort of, and that's what I love, that sort of old Hollywood glamour. That's often, I always say, we don't eat steak. Neither of us eat red meat, but I always want to go to an old steakhouse and sit in a red leather horseshoe booth and just drink a martini, make us a tableside Caesar salad and drink a nice martini. That's very Palm Springs too. And that's very, very Patrick, who likes a dry martini like I do. Patrick's not fond of mixers. So I think he says the closest you want to be to a bottle of vermouth is looking at it from across the room.
Oh, another interesting thing about Palm Springs is that it feels like a suburb of LA, even though it's far enough away that it has its own sovereignty or whatever.
Yeah.
But there is some kind of history here, and there's a cool factor.
Yeah, there is a cool, it still has that Hollywood connection. So Patrick, even though he thinks he's retired from television, and has left that world behind, he didn't go that far. Palm Springs is 100 miles or so from Los Angeles as the crow flies. And that's how it came to be back in the old studio days. If you were under contract, an actor under contract with a studio, you were not allowed to go more than 100 miles away from Los Angeles in case you had to be drawn back to be, in a moving picture. And so that's where Palm Springs sits, is exactly on that 100-mile line. And so, it used to be a playground for Sinatra and Tony Curtis and Dean Martin and the whole Rat Pack, and Marilyn Monroe had a house here for a little while, and Elvis, and so much great Liberace, so much great Hollywood history here. And so even though Patrick thinks he's left that all behind, I think there's his agent calls him out on it. He didn't really go that far. So perhaps he's there plotting a comeback.
There's a fun little Easter egg at the end of this in the acknowledgement.
Oh, well, it starts here.
It starts here.
So for anybody who has read Byron's A Star Is Born, I thought I had read this book cover to cover, and I had. We see each other through different drafts and through through the entire publishing process. But Byron snuck in 4 extra words at the end of the acknowledgments, which I had also thought I had read. But there were, when this book arrived in hardcover, there were 4. I still can't do this backwards. So there were 4 words at the end. Will you marry me? And I think if you're listening now, you've already figured it out. But for anyone who had read this and was curious to know what had happened, there was an answer to your proposal in the acknowledgments of the Guncle. So if you're curious what happened, you can pick up the Guncle.
It's so sweet. I love how our books kind of flirt with each other.
A little bit, yeah, because you appear as a character at the very end of Lily and the Octopus.
Mm-hmm.
And then I sort of, because the character is sort of inspired by me, maybe that makes an appearance in A Star Is Born. So yeah, we keep weaving in and out of each other's literary universe.
Yeah, it's sweet.
Which is sweet. It's just, has everyone just tuned out now because they're so horrified?
No,
Julie, how are we doing?
No, they're not tuned out at all.
It's just too saccharine. Gross.
I'm loving it though. It's like so fun. I'm sitting in the background and
I feel like we should be folding laundry or something while we're doing this. It's a little strange to have my conversation partner here.
No, I loved it. I actually love all of that. I do have some questions that are coming in though. But
please, and questions for both of us too.
Yeah, and everybody go ahead either on Facebook, go ahead and put some questions in. I already got some of those, and also on the chat in the Q&A function down below. But I'm so glad you talked about the Palm Springs thing, because I found that little anecdote really interesting about how Hollywood contracts, they could only go like 100 miles. That was really fun.
And we're going to go right up to that 100-mile line and toe the line. But it is interesting about being here. We lived in Los Angeles for a long time, and this would be a weekend getaway for us. But it does feel far. It really does feel like you're away. It doesn't feel like a suburb of Los Angeles. It does feel like you've really gone somewhere and are isolated, even though it's really not that far.
No, it's really not. But the traffic makes it feel farther too when you're on the 10.
Yeah, that's true. Well, isn't that could be said of anywhere between here and Florida? Yeah,
exactly. But that traffic is like, sometimes it makes you feel like you're a little bit further away.
For sure.
But it's not like because you could go down to like Orange County and be outside of LA, but that doesn't feel. Palm Springs definitely feels like a destination.
Oh, for sure.
Vacation-y kind of thing. And the old Hollywood stuff there is just fantastic.
Oh, it's so fun.
It is so fun. So
but even a little different than like La Jolla, where you are, where it's still on the ocean. So it's still, La Jolla or Santa Monica, obviously they're different places and they have a slightly different feel, but they're both still on the ocean. The desert is just an entirely different climate too, which just adds to that feeling that you've gone farther than you have.
You can actually sit in the pools there because it's warm enough. It's never warm enough in San Diego to either go in the ocean's usually too cold. And sitting in the pools, it's like, unless you're inland a little bit, it's like, my favorite thing is just get a good book, sit on the shallow end of a pool in Palm Springs. There we go.
Well, look, if this isn't a book made to read by the pool, it's got the swimming pool right on the cover.
Right on the cover there. It's like the perfect thing.
And I love that cover so much. We get, as authors, we get meaningful consultation on covers, contractually, whatever, try getting that to hold up in a court of law or who knows what that means exactly. But I love this cover so much. I'm really thrilled with it.
Yeah, they did a really good job. Yeah, I mean, you can have some right of refusal, but I'm sure that there's some overwriting that would come in if there was too much of a controversy. I'm not sure how you would win on that one.
Yeah. Yeah. But sometimes they ask booksellers, which I find so great, because sometimes we're not the best judge of what would help our own books sell, and so I'm glad sometimes that booksellers get to contribute.
Yeah.
Sometimes as well.
There is, although we don't like it, people judge a book by its cover. Sorry, you just do. It's like when there's books that are sitting on a table, something about it has to like appeal to somebody's eye, and it speaks to what kind of book it is too. I mean, there's sometimes they try to put those graphic kind of covers on things that don't match the book that's inside. That's just like, I know you were trying to get their attention, but it's like, that's not the book. That's not the cover for that particular book.
Yeah, you're gonna get some angry customers if they feel like it's been a bait and switch.
Although I hope that nobody's from publishing watching this. I'm kind of tired of the back of ladies' heads though on some of the covers. It's just like, just stop with that a little bit. Every historical novel out there has got the back of a lady's head. Yeah. It's just like, we need to get a little more creative on that.
I wonder if that's right, that they don't have to pay the rights to use the photograph of someone's face.
Probably.
No one gets royalty on the photograph.
Nobody gets any royalty on that. Okay, I'm going to start with some questions from the audience because, you've got some great comments on Facebook that are coming in. Everybody loves the Guncle. But Arlene, and you probably can't answer this, but maybe you can give us a little bit of a clue. Who are some of the actors you'd like to see play Patrick?
That's a great question. Yeah. Well, first of all, hi Arlene. I think if this is Arlene we're thinking of, we are friends, and she's gonna put me in the hot seat. But I was a big fan of Schitt's Creek. So Dan Levy right now is someone who I think would be great. Comedian Billy Eichner. Andrew Rannells, like some of these characters,
Andrew's
Jim
my favorite
Parsons.
too. I love him.
Yeah, like somebody who is slightly prickly and seems a little obnoxious maybe on the outside, but not too deep underneath is a sort of warm, gooey center.
Yeah. All of those would be any and all of the above would be fantastic. Absolutely. Yeah. Somebody's commenting.
I really is important to me in this role. Well, I don't think it's necessary in every role. It really is important to me in this role. So much as I have a say, and like a cover, I probably have meaningful consultation. But I really would love it to be an out actor, LGBTQ actor, because I think Patrick's sort of superpowers in this role sort of derive from his lived experience as a gay man, and so I would love to see an openly gay actor play.
Absolutely. No, I think that would lend to the authenticity of the book and the show. I mean, I just think that would just. I agree with you 1,000% on that. Not
but
that
I would love
my opinion matters that much, but I'm just agreeing with you. Marianne Byron says, nice hair.
Oh, thanks.
Isn't that great?
Yes.
A year ago I went through chemo, and so all my hair fell out, and then when it grew back, I thought to myself, I'm gonna have a little fun with this. So I've been having a great time shaking it up a little bit.
Byron's tour last summer, you had just completed chemotherapy when his book came out. So you did your entire virtual tour looking like me. And so
I wish I was so handsome. So good.
But so now it's all back. So I'm glad you get to be back, and with the paperback coming out, maybe you'll do a few more things. And because look at this.
It looks so good.
It's fun.
Yeah.
It's been fun.
You thinking about any colors putting in there maybe at some point? Or just go ahead?
There's so much science involved. I don't know what goes in any of it.
Science. Spray paint. That's what. Just make it easy.
Spray paint.
I was doing it for myself for a while. I would run out of the bathroom covered in like creams and gels, and my clothes are ruined.
Just make sure you don't make it so it like falls out. That could be a problem too.
Again,
where it's like you burn your It's like it's looking so lush right now. It's like, don't burn your hair off.
Don't touch it. Yeah.
Don't burn it. Okay, so Beth has a bunch of questions for us. Is Gup an homage to Patrick Dennis? She wants to know.
Yeah, so the character's named Patrick, and so Patrick Dennis was the author of Mame, and the child in Mame, the nephew in Mame, is named Patrick. And certainly Patrick O'Hara in my novel is not meant to be a grown-up version of that nephew, but it was an homage. You're right. It absolutely was deliberate, and another way to sort of draw a nice little connection to some, it's not exactly source material, but inspiration material. Yeah.
Right. And I want to just tell you guys too, I heard you talking about like the Sound of Music. Okay. my daughters just got for me. The Hollywood Bowl is doing a Sound of Music sing-along.
I've done it. It's great. It's great. It's great.
So I'm going to the Hollywood Bowl for my 60th birthday in August to do the sing-along, the Sound of Music.
That's fantastic.
Is it fun? So you've done it?
By the way, I'm going to say there's no way you could possibly be 60.
Yes.
And I am saying this because I just turned 50 myself, and I know everyone who just wished me happy birthday, it was like a hate crime. What I wanted people to say was, no, there's no way you could be 50. But if anyone was like, oh, happy birthday, I took it as deep offense.
Daggers.
So there's no way you could be 60. But if you are going, yeah, it's great fun. I saw Julie Andrews at the Hollywood Bowl once, and I've also done the Sound of Music sing along, both at the Hollywood Bowl and in the theaters. They released the movie, you sing along with the actual movie in the theater. But Julie Andrews did a special show, and at the end of the first act, she led the audience in Do Re Mi, singing Do Re Mi. She was actually on stage. So this is, one of the highlights of my life as a lifelong Sound of Music fan. Then in the second act, she was going to be reading with her daughter they read a series of children's books together.
Right. Yes.
I believe. Yeah, and I actually, this is terrible. I walked out on Julie Andrews at intermission. I left because I thought there's no higher high in my life than being led in Do Re Mi by Julie Andrews. And I knew like staying for the children's book portion of it would be a letdown for me. So I'm sorry, Julie. I walked out at intermission.
I'm not a big, I have children of my own, and I love them, but I'm really not other children. It's like the children.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Exactly. I got what I wanted. So,
exactly. So it's like, peace out. Oh, I can't wait. So that will be super fun. Okay, so let's get back to some more questions here. It's not all about me and you, although I could sit here and ask you guys questions all day long, just you and us. Okay, so without spoilers, one of her favorite scenes is with Emery and the kids. It was beautifully written. Love to hear your thoughts on writing that scene, or you can leave it as a comment if you want.
Yeah, the only thing well, thank you very much. That's really sweet. I love that scene too. And one thing I will just say about that scene is, things are getting better all the time, for large portions of the country, and the world. But there's still people who think like, oh, how are we going to explain this to the kids? How do we talk about this in front of the children? And I think, Patrick is a character, and sometimes we've done this too, it's like internalizes that a little bit. And my experience with the kids, and they happen to have great parents, and my siblings, is like, but the kids just get it. Kids get it, and it's not as big a deal to them as we make it out to be. And they're like, oh, you're with him? Great. That's the end of the end of the discussion sometimes. So there was a lovely way to sort of write that into the book.
Kids are a lot, they're better than us big people.
Yeah.
So Jennifer is saying your caftan game is strong, Stephen.
I know this is my first event not wearing a caftan. Well, last summer I had when we were also quarantined and whatnot, I had amused myself by buying clothes for a book tour that then never happened. So I have this this was something I had in mind for that. And then so I've been wearing caftans like Patrick does on the cover. He is wearing a caftan. So yeah, in Palm Springs, if it's going to be 110 degrees outside, we don't want to.
No,
we don't.
The tight waistbands are not happening. Tight waistbands are not happening.
No. So
she wants to know though, have you ever thought of starting your own line? And this is Jen from Bermuda asking.
Oh, hi, Jen. I haven't, although I think I need to make a custom one in the design of Patrick's on the cover. I really feel like I need to have that.
It's so cool.
I deserve to have that. So I'm going to figure that out somehow.
I think that needs to be like something that people can buy on Etsy or something. I'm thinking that.
For sure. But stay tuned. If you follow me on social media, I'm at Mr. Mr. Stephen Rowley on Instagram. There's going to be a lot more caftan content coming, including. I got too excited, including maybe some giveaways and discounts and things like that. So so stay tuned.
Please give them away. We have so many. We have so many. I'm going through the closet. I'm like, wait, where are your shirts?
Yeah, I'm going to be doing a video tour of my caftan closet. So that's coming soon.
Love that. Okay, so are you slated to screenwrite the film?
I am. Yes, I will be writing the film. I also wrote the editor film. I did not write Lily and the Octopus only because that was that one was so deeply personal and kind of autobiographical. And so I didn't think, the first thing you have to do is, when adapting a book, because so much more can happen in a book than a movie, you kind of have to rip it up and rearrange part and see which parts are visual, which parts work for the screen, which parts are too internal and it would be hard to adapt. So just the other two, I felt like I had an emotionally safe distance to be able to do that. But with Lily, I thought it would be best in someone else's hands.
Okay. And I just want to let people know too that we are recording this. I see some people jumping on now. We're going to put it on YouTube later so you can watch from the beginning, and it'll be on Facebook Live from the beginning too, and you can see all the great comments in there. Stephen, when you write, this is my question. I've got to throw in one of mine. It's all about me. And
Yeah.
When you write, do you make yourself laugh when you're writing?
Oh, this is such an interesting question, and I'm curious how you feel about it too, because as I said, I think Byron's book is so funny. Sometimes I'm typing along and I will make myself laugh, and I think, oh, this is great, and then I realize because it takes a year or two to write a novel and another year for that book to come out, it could be 3 years before someone reads this. It has to be the longest lead time between telling a joke and getting a response. And even then, we're not there for it. It's not like I'm reading over people's shoulders going, what's making you laugh? So to the extent that people tell me, something that made them laugh or put their favorite section of the book, in a social media post. Like that's, I always love to see that. And for Lily, I got a lot of people not blaming me, but telling me like, oh, you made me cry in public and people were looking at me funny. Well, I've had a few people say, I was laughing so hard in public with this and people were looking at me. So I think that's a lovely bookend to my writing career.
To your right, yeah. Because it's one of those things though that you do so masterfully thread that line between making you laugh, but then there's something poignant coming like within the same sentence or within the same thought. It's just, you do it brilliantly. It's fantastic. I love it.
Yeah, you have some of the funniest lines of any character, that you've ever written. Were you making, I mean, the weird thing is like, Patrick is like a version of me, kind of. So, and when Patrick's funny, I kind of think like I'm being funny, but you really wrote a character. And this woman, Kathy Cannon, who is a scream, and she's someone who's very different than you. So did you laugh like as Kathy? Do you feel her?
I had the same experience as you, where I basically like, I write it and then I think to myself, oh, that's funny.
That's pretty good.
I can't say that I cracked myself up too much. And I do kind of try to not fall too much in love with it, because you never know what I'm gonna have to cut out later and stuff. But yeah, I do. I think I do have a sense of, or I have a sense of like, oh, there hasn't been something to break the tension in a while, those kind of things. And
do you read your stuff out loud to yourselves? Because I know the dialogue can be like, it's tricky. Do you read that out loud or do you just type away? Okay.
Well, I have not read it out loud, even though some of my best editor friends have said it just helps every work. And so it's on my list. And then you had this really interesting experience.
Yeah. So for the first time ever, I recorded the audiobook for the Guncle. I am the narrator. And I heard
that's really hard to do.
It was fascinating to do too. But so I was in a recording studio, and I'm reading the book through out loud. And oh my God, there was so much. I was like, God, I wish I could change this, because then like hearing the rhythm of it didn't land in the same way it sounded in my head. And so it is going to be part. I don't know if I'll be recording the audiobook in the future, but it's going to be part of my process from now on. Absolutely, because it makes you aware of things that just, no matter how many times you read it on a computer screen or on a printed out manuscript page, you just don't see. And then I just want to point out and make sure everyone knows about Libro FM, because
Yes.
if you listen to audiobooks, you do not have, that huge corporation, which we've
The big
all
A?
relied on during the past, year for other things. They're not your only option for audiobooks. Libro FM is a great way to buy audiobooks, and you can support independent bookstores like Warwick's through your purchase.
And I so want to support them so much because they are a great and it's like 5 people that run that company. And
Yeah.
they
Wow.
are fantastic. They're such great supporters of the indie channel and authors. And basically you get the same thing that you get with, I love the A because it's Audible too. It's Audible at Amazon.
Yeah.
That big nasty A. And they do it on purpose so they get on top of everything, in alphabetical order. It's just like, and Warwick's is always at the bottom. Anything that happens, it's like we're at the bottom. I need to put like A Warwick's. We are a Warwick's. Yeah, Libro is fantastic. Okay, this is coming from an anonymous attendee. What advice do you both have for writers still in undergrad? Stephen, you want to take that one first?
Well, a great thing is to attend events like this. I mean, I really mean it. I tune into, I used to be a big supporter of going to other writers' events in person, and now online. These are like mini graduate courses sometimes, to hear other authors talk about writing and the writing process. But there's no substitute for actually writing. You've got to do the work and show up and not be frustrated. And I have 2 or 3 novels on a shelf somewhere that never went anywhere before I broke through. So, there's part of me that's always jealous of someone who comes out of the Iowa Writers Workshop and has, sells a headline making deal, sells their first novel at 25. And, that's something, but comparison too is the thief of joy, as they say. So, stay in your lane. Take the time to find your voice, what makes your voice unique. Voice is just, I cannot stress it enough. It is that sort of secret ingredient that is going to get you noticed and in order to break through. And then, publishing is one of those great things, I think, that is more open to more people than you think. So, I published my first book in my 40s. I have friends in the 50s, 60s, crawdads, where the crawdads sing,
Right.
Delia Owens was 70 or so when she published that, and she's the biggest publishing story of the decade. So, keep at it, don't give up. I'm not saying it's going to take you till you're 70, but just keep at it, find your voice, and seek out other writers. A lot of us so many available on Twitter and social media. Ask questions and attend events like this through your bookstore.
Yeah, keep going. That's what I always say. Keep going, and you find your voice by going and by writing. And I always find that information usually precedes inspiration for me. So when I do feel stuck or want to know what's next, I really dive into these kind of events. I look up my favorite authors and see what they have to say about writing. I listen to podcasts about writing. I get books on tape about writing, and not just novels, sometimes TV, screenwriting, all of those things, because you hear that it's a process and it can be frustrating and really rewarding, and keep going. That's always my advice.
Yeah, it is. And it is something that it's like, and rejection's kind of part of it too. So you kind of have to get a little bit of a thick skin.
Need a thick skin. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, but like you said, don't give up on your voice though. It's like, because if you're writing something that you feel is coming from your heart, somebody somewhere will appreciate that.
That's right.
It's true. And it's not personal. Rejection doesn't mean that your work is bad. I mean, there's no secret recipe. There's no formula that can be like, okay, check. This is good work. It's all subjective. And so keep going. It's just a matter of lining up the right writer, the right project, and the right person who believes in it. So, because
like you said, timing is a huge thing, because if there's so many things, like if they see a shift coming, I mean, timing is a huge thing. Okay, I'm going to answer a question from Facebook now from Gerald. What are some rituals you have on the day your book is first released? So Stephen, let's start with you on that one.
That's a good question. I don't know if I have any rituals.
You slept in this year.
Did I?
Yeah.
Yeah,
What is he doing?
I think yeah, I don't know. I try not to stress about it. It's it's such a solitary endeavor, novel writing. And I say that despite having, an agent and a great editor and an invaluable team at my publisher, Putnam, who I couldn't do any of this without. But it can feel lonely, even if that's not the actual truth. And so I try to enjoy it when the book is finally out there. I was overwhelmed with Instagram, Bookstagram support this time. The Guncle was everywhere, and it was so incredibly meaningful to me that for whatever reason, this book is resonating with people in this moment. And I spent the day trying to respond to as many people as I possibly could, because suddenly you are not so alone. There's a community around you, and it's really joyous to see and be a part of that.
And for what it's worth, those little moments of engagement with authors, it really is meaningful. It's meaningful not just to the author, but also for getting helping the book enter the world and have a full life out there. So I think that's all very sweet.
Yeah,
Well,
it really is.
And I think that the thing that we have to realize too is that there used to be a lot of magazines and journals and things out there that books would get published in, and the whole like marketing thing, if you see it 3 times, those kind of things are not so there's not a plethora of that anymore. So bookstagramming, all of that marketing helps. I mean, in lifting and raising that awareness.
It really does. Yeah. If you have an author that you want to support, pre-ordering their book through a bookstore, an independent book, so they can see the excitement early on bubbling. Doing a review on Goodreads, or even the Big A. That can help.
It's a reality.
Yeah, it's a reality. Spreading the word, word of mouth recommendation. That's always, if someone says, hey, that I trust, says you have to read this book, helping spread the word that way. I think that's the number one way people discover new authors. So,
okay.
It's all so helpful.
We're running out of time, but we've got a couple of really great questions that
All
I
right,
want to
lightning
get
round.
to. So we'll get to them. Somebody wants to know, did you both work as journalists?
I was journalist.
You were a journalist. I had a sort of newspaper column, but it was slightly more creative.
Okay.
Yeah.
And somebody wants to know, will the two of you collaborate on a book together someday?
We've thought about it. What do you think?
I don't know. Let's put up a poll. Julie, you must have the ability to put up a poll. No.
Yeah. Raise your hands.
I don't know. I really have no idea.
Maybe you have to get a marriage counselor before you guys decide to do that.
It's already a lot of togetherness. We live it together. We work we both work at home. We both kind of do the same thing. Here we are in this little box together, and it's it's a lot of togetherness, but never say never.
Well, here's something I observe about us, and what do you think of this? Sometimes we will tell each other a joke or make a pitch, and I think that our voices, our writing voices are clear. And so I think both of us see it so clearly in our head. But then sometimes when we pitch the other person, I think there's a little bit of like, oh, I have notes.
Yeah.
And so there's something magical about something magical about novel writing, that you are able to just create this whole world by yourself. Yeah. But we definitely talked about it. I'm open to it.
All right.
Okay. I think that there's something there. There's some collaboration. We'll see what
there's some there.
There's something there. Two more that before we go. Any favorite author that you want to highlight? Byron, we'll start with you.
Oh my gosh, with me, my standard answer for this is Stephen Rowley.
There you go.
Yeah. So that's what I've
been reading some comedic novels this year, because I like to see how other authors handle comedy, and particularly the balance of comedy and heart. And so I reread Less recently by Andrew Sean Greer.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't need any more of my support. There was a novel earlier this year called Better Luck Next Time by Julia Claiborne Johnson, which I really thought was a delight. And I like to spotlight a debut too. And so there's a book coming in July by Emily Austen, debut novelist, called Everybody in This Room Will Someday Be Dead.
Oh my
And
God, I
it
love
is one of the funniest books I have read in a long time, despite the title. And it's just great. So
Yeah, that's a tough one. That's a tough one to think as it's like we're coming in. It's like that title was probably picked before the pandemic.
yeah, yeah, exactly. And but anyway, it's truly a delightful book.
Love it. Okay, and then our last question is, what are you both working on next? I always love this, Stephen, when people ask this on a week after you have released a brand new book, but you got something else in the works?
Well, I got to write a screenplay now,
Yeah,
apparently, for the Guncle, so that'll take some of my time. But yeah, I've been working on another book through this. We'll see. If,
Okay.
if it's
Byron,
any
how
good.
about you? You've had a little bit of time since the Stars board came
Yeah.
out.
I'm in we'll see mode too. So I've got a second one cooking, and I'm excited to see what happens. And we're on this fun journey. I love being on this adventure with all of you.
It's so great, and I love hosting both of you. Sarah, thank you from the library for the support, and to
Sarah,
everybody-
thank you, Rancho Santa Fe Library.
Come see us soon.
Yep.
Oh, for sure.
Thank you.
And Stars
Thank you,
board,
Julie.
I put it in the comment section. Paperback June 15th.
Oh yeah, you can pre-order the
June
paperback
15th.
coming June 15th. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Thanks,
and
Julie.
then this was such a great, I mean, Guncle, love it, love it, love it. Stephen, both of you are on social media, very easy to find on Twitter and everything. So just look for Byron Lane and Stephen Rowley, and people can follow you guys. It's wonderful.
Congrats on the Guncle!
Thank you.
Congrats on the guy. Congrats on the movie. That is like super exciting news. I'm glad we got to
I'm
like
excited.
share it here first.
Yes, at Warwick's, where I come to
Breaking-
share all
Breaking
my big
news.
news.
Right.
Yeah.
Can't wait
It's
to
just
see
a
you both in
little-
person. Yeah. Can't wait to see you both in person.
Yes,
Come
we
down
miss
to
you,
see-
Julie. We miss
Miss
all.
you
Say
too.
hello to all of our friends at Warwick's.
Yeah.
We will. And when I close this, we kind of go away. It's not one of those where
Yeah.
we go back into a green room. So when I close it out, we are signing off. So
We will.
Sarah,
but
thank you.
I always see you again, and I love that. And I'll always be back to the library as well. So
excellent.
Great. Thank you.
Have a great rest of your night, everybody. Thank you for joining us.
bye, everyone.
Thanks for joining.